Welcome back to Nothing But Nets. Please like, share, and subscribe, guys. Please smash the like button. We want to get into today's show. Joey Harris, legendary Joey Buckets, Sloppy Joe, Grizzly Joe, Joey Harris, former legendary Net, calls it quits at 32 years old. Spent most of his career right here with the Brooklyn Nets, their all-time leader in three-pointers made, and he's right behind Drazen Petrovic in three-point field goal percentage. Fan favorite. Everyone loved Joey Buckets, and I'm not trying to discredit or degrade that in any way. I was a Joey Buckets fan. Joey Buckets won the 2019 three-point contest. He was a part of that legendary rebuild. He was a part of the Big Three era. He was here for a lot. Lots of great memories for Joey Buckets. Will always be remembered as a Net. What I'm hearing, though, is getting a little bit reckless, and people want to retire Joey Buckets' numbers and misremembering exactly his time here. So let's kind of recap what Joey Harris meant to the NBA and what he meant to the Brooklyn Nets, which is where he spent most of his career. Joe Harris, 32 years old, was drafted 33rd overall in the 2014 NBA draft. Turned pro in 2014-2015 with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Contributed on that team, played in 51 games, had 40-37 shooting splits, an effective field goal percentage of 53%, which is at that time was pretty good. You know, he came in and he was an efficient scorer right away. He played 504 games in his NBA career, starting 283 of them, playing 24.4 minutes a game and averaging 10.3 points a game, 3 rebounds, and an assist and a half per game. Good NBA player. Really thrived in that generation, that era where he could shoot the three. He had a big body. He could get to the hole a little bit. He could slash. Joey Bucket could do some things. He was more than just a shooter, although that was predominantly his thing. From the 17-18 season till the 21-22 season, the season in which he got hurt and he missed almost the entire season with a sprained ankle. If you take those seasons, his shooting numbers are staggering. He's got 50% shooting from the field, just about 49.4, 45% from three, and 80% from the free throw line. So he's basically a 50-40-80 shooter. 50-40 is similar to what, that's better than what Klay Thompson shot. And look, Klay was a catch and shoot guy. Now, he wasn't as good as coming off screens and things like that, but I want to put that in the level of where he was as a shooter. He was as good a pure shooter as any person who played in this game. And that includes guys like Klay Thompson. I'm not saying he can shoot from 40 or hit, pump fake, dribble like Joe Harris. Like Damian Lillard or Steph Curry. But just as catch the ball, shoot the ball, he's as good as anyone. He's Klay Thompson, Steve Kerr type efficiency. That's the kind of shooter he was. Truly one of the best shooters to ever walk this earth. He led the NBA in three-point shooting in 18-19 and the 2021 seasons. He won the three-point contest, like I mentioned, in 2019. He's the 5th most accurate three-point shooter of all time. It's Kerr, Hubert Davis, Luke Kennard, Drazen Petrovic, and Joe Harris. That's where he is on that list. The boy could shoot. There's no question about it. So I want to pause right there and say thank you for the memories, Joe Harris. One of the all-time great shooters. When Joe Harris got cooking, it was something to behold. I want to take the good with the good and the bad with the bad. I was against retiring Vince Carter's number for the Nets. So obviously, I'm 100% dead set against retiring Joey Buckets' number, even though I understand how beloved Joey Buckets is. It's time to really take an honest look at what Joe Harris was. Joe Harris, and I mean this in no way insulting because I'm telling you I'm a Joe Harris fan, but I'm also a realist. When we talk about Cam Thomas, I talk about the good and I talk about the bad. When we talk about any net, I talk about the good, I talk about the bad, I paint the full picture. And I don't say this with any type of joy because I'm a Joey Harris fan. Joey Buckets is one of, if not the worst postseason Nets performer in the history of the franchise. I don't even think it's questionable. I think he's the worst postseason performer in the history of the Nets franchise. If Knicks fans think Julius Randle is a bad postseason performer, which he is, because his game doesn't equate, Joey Harris is another level of bad. We know that Joe Harris was a defensive liability, and we know that Joe Harris was a shooter. If Joe Harris is not hitting shots, Joe Harris has absolutely no business on the court. None, zero, zilch. I want to take a look at some of Joe Harris's postseason performances. And again, I'm not doing this to beat up on Joe Harris. I thank Joe Harris for the memories. I was a Joe Harris fan from 2016 to 2023 when he played for the Brooklyn Nets. But I'm going to give the reality of the matter, and I'm going to share my screen with you to show you that I ain't capping. He's this bad of a postseason player. And I know Net fans remember the Milwaukee series. And the Milwaukee series was one of the worst things I'd ever seen, except for almost all of his other playoff series outside of 2 games against Toronto in the bubble. I'm trying to tell the story of Joe Harris here, so don't call me a hater. Don't say I'm a Knicks fan. I'm a Nets fan. I'm the biggest Nets fan you know. I've been a Nets fan since Kenny Anderson and Derek Coleman and Drazen Petrovic. Don't try that. I'm giving you a real synopsis on Joe Harris. Okay, so here his series with Cleveland largely didn't play at all. Okay, we start with the Brooklyn Nets in 2019, that historic, memorable, lovable 2018-19 Brooklyn Nets team. Game 1, shoots phenomenal. 13 points, 5 or 7 shooting, hits 3 out of 4 threes. Beautiful. Nets win that game. Kudos to Joe Harris. Let's look at the rest of that series. For the rest of that series, he goes 1 for 17 from 3, 0 for 2, 0 for 4, 0 for 6, 1 for 5. Total field goals 1 for 4, 2 for 7, 4 for 14, 4 for 11. Not just useless, but detrimental to the team. He had to come off the court. Look at his plus minus. Minus 22, minus 16, minus 4, minus 22. They're getting blown out because he's on the court. Game 4. They lose the game because of Joe Harris. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win the series. But if they win that game, we're tied at 2-2. I'm not saying they're going to win. They're probably going to lose in 6 because Philly's a much better team at that point. It's a lovable team, but who knows what happens. Philly does not have a great history in the playoffs. They lost in the next round. If you could have put a little bit of pressure on them, just a little bit of pressure, who would have knows what happened? They had mismatch problems with the Nets. You had Ben Simmons, who couldn't guard super quick guards, and you had J.J. Redick, who couldn't guard big guards. They had D'Angelo Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Caris LeVert. And Caris LeVert was absolutely eating that series. Who knows what happens? He absolutely cost them with his 4 for 14, 0 for 6 from 3 game in Game 4 against the Philadelphia 76ers. They lose that game. They go down 3-1. They go back to Philly. Obviously, that season is over. They lose that game 112-108, and then they get blown out in Game 5. He comes back the next year. It's the bubble season. It's COVID. He gets injured. He plays well in those first 2 games, specifically the first game, but he plays well that series in a lot of minutes. In a series that the Nets are clearly outmatched, and there's no Kyrie. Kyrie didn't show up to the bubble. KD is out for the season. It's Caris LeVert. It's 1-on-5, and they get dominated by Toronto. That's 2 games. 2020-2021 season, Nets are favored to win the championship. Joe Harris goes Game 1, 4 for 11, 2 for 6 from 3. All right. Not great, not bad. If he shoots like that, it's not good, but we can live with that. Game 2, he goes off. Game 2, the Nets look like they're going to win the NBA Finals. They look like they're in a league of their own. KD, Kyrie, and Harden all clicking, all playing. He goes 9 for 14 from the field, 7 for 10 from three-point range. Scores 25 points, is a major contributor to a blowout win that puts the Nets up 2-0 and makes them look like the class of the league. Game 3, everything changes for Joey. Oh, wait, this is the Boston series. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the Boston series. He plays adequate. He plays well in the Boston series in a series where they absolutely outmatch and outman Boston. He shoots phenomenally in the Boston series. I'm sorry, I'm getting messed up. He plays top level against the Boston Celtics. There's no question about it. This is the only playoff series he plays well in. And the series is not that great either, by the way. He has 47, 51 splits. He averages 13 points a game. All right, it's good. We're happy. They totally outman and outmatched Boston. The one series he played in the playoffs with the Nets where he played to his regular season numbers, perhaps better. Game 1 and Game 2 against Milwaukee, he looks like Joe Harris. Good shooting splits. He's hitting his shots. He's averaging 16 points a game. Nets are up 2-0. Nets are absolutely cooking. He's doing his thing. From that point on, he cost the Brooklyn Nets the series. So that's the second series. Because again, if Joe Harris isn't making shots, Joe Harris is doing nothing. Now, the first 2 games, the Nets blow out Milwaukee. Blow them out. Not a contest. How did he do the next 5 games? Again, I don't enjoy doing this to Joe Harris. For the last 5 games of that series, in which the Nets only have to win 2 of them, they just have to go 2-3. He shoots 26.5% from 3 and 24.2% from 3 and 50%. He can't even hit his free throws. This was an all-time great choke job. All-time great choke job. He is horrible in this series, and he cost them this series. Game 3, he cost them the series. Right there. If they win, he goes 1 for 11 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3. They lose by 3. They're winning most of the game in a very low-scoring affair, and Joe Harris chokes that game away. If they win that game, they're up 3-0. The series is over. The next game, 3 for 8, 2 for 6 from 3. Another poor game. Game 5, they win when KD goes bonkers. He plays 37 minutes. Goes 2 for 11. Shoots 18% from the field. 1 for 7 from 3. Game 6, with this series on the line, an elimination game for Brooklyn. They win. They're in the finals. He goes 4 for 9, 1 for 4 from 3, and he's minus 25. He's the worst player on the court. Game 7, he plays 46 minutes and 55 seconds. Now, I destroyed Nance for this. He's got to be off the court. He's been awful all series. Well, since Game 2, he's been horrendous. He's got to come off the court. Got to. He goes 3 for 10, 3 for 9 from 3, 1 for 2 from the line. 10 points, 10 shots, and a free throw. He's the reason they lose the series. I'm just being honest. He's the reason they lost that series. He blew Game 3, and he blew Game 6 and 7. If he shoots to his season averages in any of those games, the Brooklyn Nets win. He's now the reason why the Nets lost 2 series. 21-22. Again, the Nets are favored to win the NBA Finals. They get swept by Boston. But at the start of the postseason, at the start of the regular season and the start of the postseason, the Brooklyn Nets are the Las Vegas bookmakers' choice, best odds to win the NBA championship. They get swept by Boston. He's out. Can't credit or discredit him. He was injured. He had an ankle injury that just never got better and never healed. He comes back the 22-23 season. They're playing Philly. They get absolutely manhandled by Philly. He plays a limited role off the bench, playing about 15 minutes a game. The one game they were competitive in, Game 3, he plays 3 minutes and goes 0 for 3. In that series, he goes 1 for 3 from 3, 1 for 3 overall. 0 for 2 0 for 3, 0 for 4 from 3, and then 1 for 5 that game. So in that series, he made 2 buckets, playing 45 minutes. He makes 2 buckets. He goes 2 for 13, 1 for 12 from 3. I don't know what to make of this. This is unbelievably, unspeakably bad. Joe Harris is the worst postseason performer in the history of the Brooklyn Nets. It's not even close. He cost them 2 playoff series. Now, I like Joey Bucket as much as the next man, but to retire his number is to retire a guy that cost us 2 postseason runs. One where we could have won a championship if he just shoots. If he's Alan Crabb in that series, if he's Tyler Johnson in that series, they win that series. He's so unspeakably bad in that series, and he's so unspeakably bad in the every Net fan's favorite Brooklyn Net team, the 18-19 Nets. We all love that team. He blew that series too. They were competitive. They gave Philly troubles all season long, every matchup. JJ Redick talked on his podcast about how bad of a matchup that was for them. Tobias Harris has mentioned it, and Joe Harris shot him out of that series. Joe Harris, if he's not hitting his shots, needs to come off the court. Absolutely needs to come off the court. So I blame Steve Nash for not taking him off the court in that 21 series. In the 2021 series, I blame Nash for that. 100%, but it's still, the burden is still Joe Harris's, because Joe Harris has one damn job: make you open shots. He's missing every one of them. So again, big Joe Harris fan. Thanks for the memories. Retiring his number would be a crime in Italy. They would arrest you and throw you in prison for retiring Joe Harris's number because it's disrespectful to the franchise. He ruined 2 postseason runs. Single-handed, he cost us 2 playoff series. Not that they wouldn't necessarily beat Philly. Who knows what happens? But he blew one game after another. He's got one job. He couldn't do it. He did a lot of things well. Again, Joey Harris cooking is something to behold. Won the 3-point contest. All-time leader in 3-point field goals made. A good Brooklyn Net who was a good Net, who was an all-time bad playoff performer, the worst playoff performer in franchise history, and a guy that cost us 2 playoff series. That's the good and the bad with Joe Harris. All right, guys, please smash the like button, subscribe, follow me on all forms at 3D Boxing. I appreciate y'all. It's August 16th, 2024. Again, I'm not a Joe Harris hater. From Texas to the world. Thank you.